Have you ever thought to yourself, there has to be more than this? Why does it seem like life has a way of making us feel less? Not just feel like less, but feel less, as in numb, leaving us to wonder if this is it. Is this all that life has for us? We spend every day just trying to make it from one item on our calendar to the next, from one email to the next, from one soul-crushing moment to the next. Was this God's plan? Is there more to life than this? What if God really does have more for us? More love, more joy, more peace, more purpose, more hope. What if God is the God of more? And what if the life we've been searching for is really found as we surrender our lives more and more to Jesus? Because Jesus is offering us a way to live life that is more than we've ever even dreamed of. We are Altitude Church. We are here to help you become more like Jesus. So, what are you becoming?
Welcome to Altitude Church Online. We're so glad that you're worshiping with us today. If you're a first-time guest, we would love to connect with you. Just message the word guest to the number that's on screen, and we'll have one of our leaders connect with you. Plus, for every first-time guest that we connect with, we give $5 towards the battle against sex trafficking right here in Denver. So just by connecting with us, you're making an impact in our city. Thank you so much for that. If you'd like to support the mission and ministry of Altitude Church, you can give safely and securely online anytime at the giving link that's on the screen. Thank you for supporting the life change and impact that happens through your church. Now, we're going to transition into our introductory moment of worship. Would you prepare your heart as we gather together?
Let's sing this together. You are here. You are here. You're moving in our midst. I worship you. I worship you. And you are here. You're working in this space. I worship you. I worship you. You are here. You're moving in our midst. I worship you. I worship you. You are here. You're working in this place. I worship you. I worship you. Let's sing it out. As you are waymaker, miracle work, promise keep, light in the darkness, my God, that is who you are. You are waymaker, miracle worker, promise keep, light in the darkness, my God, that is who you are. And you are here. Touching every heart, I worship you. I worship you. You are here. You're healing every heart. I worship you. I worship you. You are here. You're turning lives around. I worship you. I worship you. You are here. You're mending every heart. I worship you. even when I don't see it, you're working. And even when I don't feel it, you're working. You never stop working. You never stop working. And even when I don't see it, you're working. And even when I don't feel it, you're working. You never stop working. You never stop working. And even when I don't see it, you're working. Even when I don't feel it, you're working. You never stop working. You never stop working. And even when I don't see it, you're working. And even when I don't feel it, you're working. You never stop working. You never stop. Waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness, my God, that is who you are. You are waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness, my God, that is who you are. 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 That is who you are,
Good morning, Altitude Church. It's such an honor to be with you today. If we haven't met, my name is Jason, and I'm the lead pastor of Motion Church in Lexington, Kentucky. But I'm also the founder of Coaching.Church, and get this huge privilege of being able to join you guys on your journey of launching Altitude Church in 2021. I cannot wait. I'm so excited, and I'm so privileged to be able to work with your pastor, Pastor Lee, and the amazing leaders that you have in your church. And so I just want to give a huge shout out. You should be so proud of the leadership that you have and the future that is ahead of you. So a couple weeks ago, I was in Montana, and a couple weeks ago in Montana, the weather was not great, okay? So I was there with a group of guys. We were in a cabin. We were going to go fishing. Snowstorm decides to come in, and it's 16 degrees outside, wind chill of like 3 degrees. And so a handful of guys are going, let's go fishing anyways. When else are we going to get to fish in a snowstorm, on the Bighorn River and, like all this kind of stuff. And I'm just sitting in a chair going, somebody has to be the voice of wisdom here. Somebody has to be the voice of reason. And so I just start, this is ridiculous. This is the dumbest idea. It would be so much better just to stay inside where it's warm, where it's comfortable, and we're not going to die, right? And I feel like my argument is kind of holding up. I feel like people are starting to go, yeah, maybe it is dumb to go out there and go fishing in 16-degree weather. Well, about that time, one of the fishing guides comes through that, he just got roped into this deal, right? And so I go, hey, who says they're going anyways? He pulls out a list and he starts reading names off of this list. And listen, most of the names at first, they aren't doing anything for me. I mean, majority of the guys on the trip, 30s, 40s, in terms of age, which means we're still apt to make some dumb decisions, right? So he starts going through this list, and then he calls out a name I was not expecting. He says, and Randy's going. Now, Randy he's in retirement age. So he was there to be the voice of reason, to be the voice of wisdom among all of these guys. And so I'm sitting here going, I'm trying to talk everybody out of this, but Randy's going? So I did the only right thing. And I went and bundled up, put some boots on, some waders, and went fishing in 16-degree weather. And it was amazing. I tell you that story, though, because I love what you guys are doing. You have two churches that had a rich, long history. And many people would go, that's the time to stay in the cabin and stay where it's warm and just be comfortable. But you guys have said, no, let's go out into the elements and let's go be fishers of men, because there's an adventure to be had, there's some people to be reached, and it's way more adventurous and exciting, and it doesn't matter what stage of life we're in. This is what we want to be about. And the cool thing about that is that there's some younger, less mature people that will see what you are doing and say, I want to be a part of that too. And it's going to be something remarkable. And so I'm honored to be a part of what is happening with Altitude Church, and just can't wait to see what the next year and decade and millennia for this church is going to have. So that evening, we come in and we're thawing out, trying to realize if we still have any nerve endings in our fingers or not. And we thaw out and we eat dinner. And we're sitting around the dinner table. And Todd is a gentleman there that kind of helps to lead some kind of heart-level discussions around the table. And so we were finishing up dinner, and Todd gets everybody's attention. He says, hey, we're going to go around the table, and we're just going to answer one question tonight. But I really want you to think about it. And he asked this question that I've never been asked before. So I really wasn't ready for it. He said, what are you disappointed with God about? There was something about that question that seemed almost like sinful. Like, you're not allowed to be disappointed with God. Like, yes, we all have been, but like, can you even admit that? Can you admit that and be a Christian? Can you admit that and follow Jesus? Like, I think we don't know how to handle disappointment when it comes to our relationship with God. And so that question was so powerful. It forced you to really come to grips and really, in a way, identify with many of the Psalms that David wrote, where he just expressed his disappointment with God, but also expressed his devotion, love, and commitment to God as well. I think in our world, we don't know how to handle disappointment. Especially as new generations come along, it seems like we try to shield the next generation from as much disappointment and as much pain as possible. But what if disappointment is a part of life, and it's an essential part of life that we need to know how to handle properly? Because if we don't, then maybe disappointment actually will redefine the way we experience life. So I want to jump into a story as we go through the book of John. In John chapter 11, and we're gonna journey through just a portion of the story, okay? Because it's a portion of the story that oftentimes is where we live. Okay, there's more to the story. There's a miracle that happens on the other side of this story. But sometimes we find ourselves not living in the miracle of the moment. We find ourselves living in the moment before the miracle, where it doesn't feel like anything miraculous is going to happen. Maybe it's kind of like childbirth, this miracle of a new child coming, but it's preceded by these moments of pain. See, a lot of times we live in that moment before the miracle, and we don't know how to handle that properly. Sometimes that disappointment that's supposed to be there just for a little while decides to set up permanent residence in our hearts and our minds. So jump in with me to John chapter 11. It says this, starting in verse 1 through 16. It says, "Now a man was sick, Lazarus from Bethany, the village of Mary and her sister Martha. Mary was the one who anointed the Lord with perfume and wiped his feet with her hair, and it was her brother Lazarus who was sick. So the sisters sent a message to him, 'Lord, the one you love is sick.' When Jesus heard it, he said, 'This sickness will not end in death, but is for the glory of God, so that the Son of God may be glorified through it.' Now Jesus loved Martha, her sister, and Lazarus. So when he heard that he was sick, he stayed 2 more days in the place where he was. Then after that, he said to the disciples, 'Let's go to Judea again.' 'Rabbi,' the disciples told him, 'just now the Jews tried to stone you, and you're going to go there again?' 'Aren't there 12 hours in a day?' Jesus answered. 'If anyone walks during the day, he doesn't stumble because he sees the light of this world. But if anyone walks during the night, he does not stumble because the light is not in him.' He said this, and then he told them, 'Our friend has fallen asleep. Our friend Lazarus has fallen asleep, but I'm on my way to wake him up.' Then the disciples said, 'Lord, if he's fallen asleep, then he'll get well.' And Jesus, however, was speaking about his death, but they thought he was speaking about natural sleep. So Jesus then told them plainly, 'Lazarus is dead. I'm glad for you that I wasn't there so that you may believe. But let's go to him.' Then Thomas, called Twin, said to his fellow disciples, 'Let's go too, so that we may die with him.'" What a great phrase to end on, right? Let's go too, so that we may die with him. But there's so much wrapped up in this story, these relationships that are so close and intertwined, but yet the emotions that must be running wild when you have, this love and devotion, and you have Jesus who can do anything. He's risen people from the grave. He's healed the blind. He's healed the sick. He's done so much. Sometimes he healed people by just speaking. And then they arrived home and the person had been healed at the moment that he spoke. Sometimes he went on the journey with them and showed up at the house and brought healing. Like, so much wrapped up in all of this. But yet he stays in a town longer than we would have ever expected him to stay. And then he decides to go when Lazarus is dead. So many emotions. So much room for doubt and disappointment. But here's something I want to encourage you with. That your current doubt is the place where God is planting seeds of belief. This place that maybe you find yourself in right now, where there's a lot of doubts about the future, or you're disappointed in some things you thought God was supposed to do. There may be some disappointments in what you don't think God is going to do. Maybe you find yourself in this situation like one of the disciples sitting next to Jesus, seeing a scenario playing out in the world today, and you're going, "Jesus, you can do something." And Jesus says, "We're going to stay." I want you to know your current place of doubt is the very place that Jesus is planting seeds of belief. All throughout this storyline so far, he's saying he's doing what he's doing for future glory. So we need to deal some things, because if you changed the way you looked at disappointment and doubt in your life, it would change the way you viewed yourself, and it would change the way you view God. I wonder if we're letting too many times a temporary feeling of doubt and disappointment become a permanent friend or enemy that hangs around far too long in our lives. You know, right now there's unprecedented. That's the word of 2020, right? Unprecedented. Everything is unprecedented in 2020. But there are unprecedented amounts of people with depression and anxiety. There's a good chance that you are watching this right now and you are struggling with anxiety and depression because doubt and disappointment have set up and made home in your mind and in your heart. Like, you know, there's seasons you go through with God that are often uncertain, and if you're not careful, the lies of the enemy get louder in those moments of uncertainty if you don't know how to handle disappointment and doubt properly. But at the basic level, though, I think what gets us when Jesus stays instead of goes, when Jesus sits instead of stands up and goes and heals, when he doesn't speak healing in the moment, when he doesn't do what we think he ought to do, especially to those that love him and he loves, we have this thought that goes, you know, shouldn't we not have to feel this way since we're people that he loves and we love him? And if we aren't careful, that reality, that thought pattern will set us up to self-destructive thoughts and patterns and habits in our life. Because if we don't handle our doubts well, we give them control over how we interact with God. So this is so important that we lean in. It was so important in that cabin in Montana that Todd looks at a group of men and asks a question that we've never been asked before. What are you disappointed with God about? And there was something so powerful, freeing, and healing that happened around that table as we all voiced it. And what we did is we didn't give it power, but we actually brought it out into the light. Jesus said, you know, when you're walking in the day, you can see. We brought it into the light, and because we brought it into the light, it was able to find its proper place in our relationship with Jesus. When you look at this moment with the disciples, it's not unlike a lot of moments with the disciples. Sometimes we think all the disciples experienced were the miracles. But before every miracle, you had the moment that is what we mostly experience in life. It was the moment where there wasn't enough food to feed the 5,000. The moment where they're looking and going, all we got is a few loaves and some fish. Like, that's the moment that a lot of us live in. It's the moment where Jesus comes off the Mount of Transfiguration and he comes down, and the disciples have been praying for a man's son who's been struggling and they couldn't heal him. Many of us live in those moments right before the miracle. But those moments are often have doubt and disappointment in them. But again, that current place of doubt is the place God is planting seeds of belief. I think about that father of that son that the disciples couldn't heal. Jesus shows up. And he has this dialogue with him. And Jesus says that everything is possible to those who believe. And the man says, I do believe. Help me in my unbelief. I think maybe that when we find ourselves in these moments, we have to realize the complexity of relationship means that sometimes we can believe, but we need help with our unbelief. That we go, I trust God for who He is, even though I can't see what He's currently doing. So I want to take a couple minutes and I just want to unpack what a life with Jesus looks like. Because it's important to see the complexities of it so we're not caught off guard when moments of uncertainty arise. First, I want you to understand this. A life with Jesus looks like love. We see this in this passage because we're introduced to the story by meeting all of the real people involved, the loving people involved. You've got Lazarus and Mary and Martha and Jesus. And John, who's writing this story for us, he repeats a lot how much everyone loves each other. Mary is mentioned in this story as the one who broke the perfume bottle over Jesus' feet and dried his feet with her hair. What's interesting about this is that story hadn't even happened yet in terms of John telling us the story of Jesus. That's going to happen in like chapter 12 or 13. But what John's trying to do is create a context. These people loved each other. Mary and Martha and Lazarus loved Jesus. Oftentimes when Jesus didn't have a place to stay, he had an open door policy at the house of Lazarus and Mary and Martha. And so there was deep love. You know, they appeal to Jesus going, hey, Lazarus, the one you love is sick. But John makes sure he points out in verse 5, he says, now Jesus loved not just Lazarus, loved Martha, her sister, and Lazarus. So a life with Jesus looks like love. That's where it has to start. Sometimes people are trying to figure out everything about Jesus and everything about God before they ever decide to be in a relationship with Him. That's not how relationships work. I still haven't figured out my wife, and she still hasn't figured out me. And we've been together for more than 2 decades. But you know why we got married? Because we loved each other. We knew enough to love. And a life with Jesus, fundamentally and foundationally, it starts with, and the foundation of it all is love. That's what we see existing in this story. But love's beautiful. Love draws us close. But an immature love sets us up with expectations that often go unfulfilled. I sit down with couples all the time. I sit down with couples that are about to get married. And part of that process of sitting with them is trying to help them see all the things that they are going to experience as they stumble into the unfulfilled parts of their expectations around love. I sit down with couples that have been married for 7 years or 10 years, and they're wrestling with and dealing with the fact that they loved each other so much, but there's aspects of that love that gave them an expectation that hasn't been met. But that's part of what love does, an immature love. It draws us close, but if we aren't careful, love makes us think that there are things that we deserve based purely just off of love. Love isn't predictable. I think about this moment in the book The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe by C.S. Lewis, where the kids are been hearing about this Aslan, and they meet the beaver who is kind of introducing them to this whole concept in this new world. And one of the little girls says, Aslan is a lion? The beaver says, Aslan is a lion, the great lion. Oh, said Susan, I thought he was a man. Is he quite safe? I shall feel rather nervous about meeting a lion. Safe? Said Mr. Beaver. Who said anything about safe? Of course he isn't safe. But he's good. He's the king, I tell you. And there's something about love and a love for God that goes, I love Him, and He's good. But it doesn't mean that I'm always safe from disappointment and from doubt. So life with Jesus looks like love, but life with Jesus also can feel uncertain. That is a part of a life with Jesus that you need to become comfortable with, is that it won't be comfortable. There are times of uncertainty when you walk with Jesus. The disciples are sitting here, and you would think they knew exactly what would happen. Lazarus is sick, the word is sent to Jesus, and now Jesus will respond. He will be filled with compassion like He's been filled with compassion so many times. It is certain, it is predictable exactly what Jesus will do. He's going to do one of two things. He's either going to speak and Lazarus is going to be healed, or they're all going to pack up and go on a journey, and they're going to lay hands on Lazarus. And he'll be healed when they get there. So certain, so predictable, right? But it's the exact opposite of what Jesus did. We read verse 5, but I want to go into verse 6 right now. It says, "Now Jesus loved Martha, her sister, and Lazarus. So when He heard that he was sick, He stayed 2 more days in the place where he was." He stayed. He heard that he was sick, so He stayed. And I even love this. I want you to notice this. The word "so" even is such a powerful transitional statement that often goes unnoticed in this. It says, He loved these people, so He stayed. Like, His love compelled Him not to get up, not to speak. Because even though it seems so predictable, there was a knowledge and a wisdom and a power that supersedes our own experience. And there are times when you walk in love and in life with Jesus that He's not going to do what you think He ought to do, not because He's not good, but because He stands above time. He stands above space. He stands above our current situation. And while Mary and Martha and Lazarus and all the disciples around Jesus are stuck in a moment of doubt and uncertainty, Jesus, He already has one foot planted in the future. He already knows what we will learn as we keep journeying through the story. That Lazarus' death, his ultimate death and resurrection, would be a powerful story which would set the stage for people being able to see Jesus on death and resurrection. And even greater than that, it would give you and I the ability to have confidence that if He could raise Lazarus from the grave, then we have a future hope of resurrection ourselves. That when we die, it's not the end, that we will be raised to life again, eternal life with Jesus. So there was a much bigger picture that Jesus was operating under, and that bigger picture created certainty in what He should do. He should stay. But that bigger picture that you and I may not always be privy to created uncertainty for all the disciples. So life with Jesus can feel uncertain. Jesus won't always shield you from that uncertainty or even from pain, but He'll always set you up for His plan. Life with Jesus also requires trust. So 2 days go by, and then Jesus looks at His disciples, and He says this in verse 7. It says, "Then after that, He said to His disciples, 'Let's go to Judea again.'" Now, Judea is where Lazarus is, but also Judea is where in chapter 10, right before this story, a group of people tried to throw rocks at Jesus to the point of His death. Okay, so Jesus, after a couple days, He's like, "Let's go to Judea." His disciples are trying to process, why are we going? You already decided to leave Lazarus on his own, and this place literally is trying to kill you. why are we going there? Jesus begins to lay out, listen, I've got to go there. Lazarus has died. And so they still don't fully understand that Lazarus' death, Lazarus' pain, even Mary and Martha walking through that pain with Lazarus, was all part of a bigger story, of a resurrection story. And he needed to go. The disciples had to trust. Mary and Martha, in being brought down to even their lowest moments of doubt and disappointment, Jesus shows up later to reinvigorate trust with them. A life with Jesus requires trust because it's love and uncertainty combined together. And when you put those two things in the same room, trust has to show up and become the bedrock of how you operate. It's the same in your marriage. It's the same in your friendship. It's also the same in your relationship with God. Trust goes a long way to move you forward and move you into maturity with a walk with Christ. I find that when we're in moments that challenge our trust, we hold on to fear, we hold on to insecurity, we hold on to doubt, we maybe even hold on to the pain of abuse, and we wrestle with God. But what if we changed that? What if we just held on to God and we wrestled with insecurity and we wrestled with pain and we wrestled with doubt and we wrestled with disappointment? I think sometimes we're holding on to the wrong thing. We're holding on to our fear and wrestling with God. But what would happen if our love for God compelled us, even in uncertainty, to latch on to Him, to hold on to Him, to trust in Him, and let the wrestling happen with the external and the internal. Let the wrestling happen with the thing that's meant to be temporary. Because our current place of doubt isn't supposed to be the place that we hold on to, but our current place of doubt is supposed to be the place where God's planting seeds that produce faith, that produce life. The moment before the miracle isn't supposed to be the place we always live. The moment before the miracle enables us to lean in and develop a greater level of trust in God, because His character is what we've held on to. And His character is what leads us from that moment to the moment of the miracle in our lives. See, if we don't handle our doubts well, we'll give them control over how we view and we interact with God. But if we can put them in their proper place, then God can lead the way in our lives. Imagine right now if your current doubts, your current disappointments, your current fears weren't the thing that was defining your relationship with God, but it was the other way around. That you had allowed your love for God to make you just wrestle with. And wrestle with them, because here's the thing. The disciples, Mary and Martha, they had to wrestle with their doubts, had to wrestle with their disappointments, and they had to lean on Jesus. But their wrestling with their doubts and their disappointments happened all the way up to the moment that Lazarus walked out of a grave. And I'm sorry I spoiled next week's sermon, but Lazarus comes up out of the grave, everybody. So the doubt and the disappointment, they're temporary, but you got to wrestle with them until the point that you've seen God's character show true in His actions. So walk with Jesus and allow your current moment to mature to the point where you see the miracle of God. I love verse 16. It's such a startling statement, but it is a challenge to us who want to be disciples, followers of Jesus. says this, "Then Thomas, called Twin, said to his fellow disciples, 'Let's go too, so that we may die with him.'" So much wrapped up in that statement. An expectation that that things weren't going to get better, right? But an expectation that who Jesus was worthy enough to go anywhere with. So if Jesus was going to go to Judea, then we were going to go to Judea. That there was such a love and a trust and a devotion to Jesus that even when there was a high level of uncertainty, they were going to put one foot in front of the other and follow Jesus. They declare, "I will follow you." I want to challenge you to be a disciple that's willing to go anywhere with Jesus. And if you will be a disciple that is willing to go anywhere, He will turn a couple loaves and some fish into a story where thousands of people are healed. If you're willing to go anywhere with Jesus, then He will turn a storm in the middle of the waters that you think is going to bring death into a story where someone walks on water. If you're willing to go anywhere with Jesus, then He will take a moment where your friend Lazarus is sick and on his deathbed and actually dies into a moment where 4 days later he walks up out of a grave, healed miraculously by God. If you will be someone that will go anywhere with Jesus, then you will not only experience the doubt and disappointment, but it will be temporary on your journey to seeing the miraculous experienced in your life. I want to encourage you, be a disciple that will go anywhere with Jesus. Some of you watching right now, maybe you don't have a relationship with Jesus at all. And you've been waiting to figure Him all out. I just want to challenge you right now. Do you know enough that you're willing to allow that love to compel you to enter into a relationship that will take you on the greatest adventure of your life and for all of eternity? I want to encourage you. Let's take a step towards Jesus.
The Lord bless you and keep you. Make His face shine upon you and be gracious to you. The Lord turn His face toward you and give you peace. The Lord bless you and keep you. Make His face shine upon you and be gracious to you. The Lord turn His face toward you and give you peace. Oh, we sing amen. be gracious to you. The Lord turn his face towards you and give you peace. Amen. 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 May his favor be upon you and 1,000 generations, and your family, and your children, and their children, and their children. May his favor be upon you and 1,000 generations, and your family, and your children, and their children, and their children. May his favor be upon you and 1,000 generations, and your family, and your children, and their children, and their children. May his favor be upon you and 1,000 generations, and your family, and your children, and their children, and their children. May his presence go before you and behind you and beside you, all around you and within you. He is with you, he is with you in the morning, in the evening, in the coming, and you're going, and you're weeping and rejoicing. He is for you, 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 he is for you. We've seen what you can do, oh God of wonders. Your power has no end. The things you've done before, in greater measure, you will do again. 'Cause there's no prison wall you can't break through, no mountain you can move. All things are possible. There's no broken body you can't raise, no soul that you can't save. All things are possible. The darkest night, you can light it up. You can light it up. Oh God of revival, let hope arise, and death is overcome, and you've already won. Oh God of revival, you rose in victory, and now you're seated forever on the throne. So why should my heart fear what you defeated? I will trust in you alone. 'Cause there's no prison wall you can't break through, no mountain you can't move. All things are possible. There's no broken body you can't raise, no soul that you can't save. All things are possible. The darkest night, you can light it up. You can light it up. A God of revival, let hope arise, and death is overcome. You've already won. A God of revival. Let's sing this as a prayer. Sing, come awaken. Come awaken your people. Come awaken the city. Oh God of revival, pour it out, pour it out. Every stronghold will crumble, and I hear the chains hit the ground. Oh God of revival, pour it out, pour it out. Come awaken your people. Come awaken the city. Oh God of revival, pour it out, pour it out. And every stronghold will crumble, and I hear the chains hit the ground. Oh God of revival, pour it out, pour it out. The darkest night, you can light it up. You can light it up. A God of revival, and hope arise, and death is overcome. You've already won. A God of revival. See, come awaken. Come awaken your people. Come awaken the city. Oh God of revival, pour it out, pour it out. Every stronghold will crumble, and I hear the chains hit the ground. Oh God of revival, pour it out, pour it out. We'll sing this one more time. And there's no prison wall you can't break through, no mountain you can move. All things are possible. There's no broken body you can't raise, no soul that you can't save. All things are possible.
Thanks again for joining us at Altitude Church Online. We know that Jesus has been speaking into your heart and into your life. If you'd like to have a conversation with somebody about what Jesus wants to do through you, we would love to chat with you. You can text the word Jesus to the number on screen, and one of our leaders will reach back out to you. Just in case you missed it, we just finished up a 5-week series talking about the future of Altitude Church. If you'd like to binge something better and get to know a little bit more about what our year looks like leading to our fall 2021 launch, you can find the link in the description below to get to that series. Once again, we're so glad you're here, and we would love to see you be a part of the life change and impact that happens every day through Altitude Church. You can give online safely and securely anytime at the link that's on screen on our giving page. When you give, you support life-changing ministry that happens here in Denver and out to the entire world through our online ministry. Thanks so much for being a part of that and giving to support that change. Once again, we're so glad that you joined us today. We'll see you next week as we continue the series, Jesus, the New Normal.